Kind people don't suffer because they're weak. They suffer because they feel too deeply, care too sincerely, and trust too quickly. The truth behind why kind people always get used is rooted in psychology, not fate. Kindness, when mixed with empathy and emotional responsibility, becomes a magnet for takers, manipulators, and emotionally unavailable people. Kind people are often raised to believe their value comes from being useful, helpful, or accommodating. So as adults, they naturally put others first, even when it hurts them. They say yes when they want to say no. They give second chances when they shouldn't give any. They apologize even when it's not their fault. And because they've been conditioned to avoid conflict, they become the perfect target for people who take without giving. The psychology behind this pattern runs deep. Kind people tend to mirror other people's emotions, picking up on sadness, stress, or frustration like a sponge. They feel compelled to fix, soothe, or protect others, even when those others would never do the same for them. This creates a dynamic where the kind person becomes the emotional caretaker, while the other person becomes the emotional consumer. And over time, this imbalance becomes their normal. But there's a darker truth. Kind people often ignore the early signs of manipulation. They see red flags as wounds to heal instead of warnings to leave. They assume someone's cruelty means they're hurt, that someone's distance means they're scared, that someone's disrespect means they're stressed. They explain bad behavior with compassion, even when the behavior is a choice, not a symptom. Psychologically, this comes from a belief that if they just try a little harder, love a little deeper, or stay a little longer, the other person will change. But takers don't change when you give more. They change when you finally walk away. Another reason kind people get used is because they underestimate their own worth. They think good people are rare, so they must hold on to any connection they have, even a toxic one. They think if they stop giving, they'll lose the relationship. But the painful truth is this: if your value depends on how much you sacrifice, it's not a relationship, it's exploitation. Kind people also struggle with boundaries. They fear that setting limits will make them appear selfish, cold, or unloving. They fear abandonment, rejection, or disappointing others. So they tolerate behavior that chips away at their self-respect. They stay silent when they should speak. They stay present when they should leave. And when they finally reach their breaking point, they collapse quietly instead of confronting loudly. But here's what no one tells kind people. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors. And you get to decide who walks through and who doesn't. A truly good heart doesn't mean a heart without protection. The moment a kind person realizes they deserve the same level of care they give, something shifts inside them. They stop accepting excuses. They stop fixing people who don't want to grow. They stop pouring into bottomless cups. They stop giving unlimited emotional access to people who only show up when it benefits them. When a kind person finally learns their worth, their kindness becomes powerful instead of painful. They start giving with intention, not desperation. They start choosing people who reciprocate instead of drain. They start walking away from anyone who confuses their compassion with weakness. And ironically, this is when they become the strongest version of themselves. The truth is, kind people don't need to change who they are. They just need to change who they give access to. Their kindness is not the problem. Their audience is. When kind people redirect their energy toward people who appreciate, respect, and reciprocate, everything transforms. They stop living in emotional debt. They stop apologizing for their sensitivity. They stop attracting manipulators. Instead, they start attracting people who value emotional depth, honesty, and real connection. Kindness is a gift, but only when given to the right hands. The moment a kind person realizes they don't have to bleed to prove their worth, they stop getting used. They stop being victims of their own generosity. And they finally understand that protecting their heart is not selfish, it is survival.